There is a whole world of cinema waiting to be discovered. You just have to overcome that 1-inch barrier known as subtitles. This is That 1-Inch Barrier, a foreign cinema podcast dedicated to movies from all around the world. My name is Kieran Griffiths, here as always with my favourite movie degenerates, Josh Barry, Nick Labarro. Gentlemen, welcome.
He's the film lover and I'm the degenerate. I think that's I think that's how we'll round that up. The two.
Welcome to the pinnacle of the podcast.
Wow.
We're here.
Our final foreign language Bong Joon-ho film. We've covered 4 of his movies, the patron saint of the podcast, and we have arrived here.
Where
Parasite.
Yeah.
Where it
His
all began.
2019 film.
And we've gone from his original debut.
Yeah,
that was the
Barking
first one we
Dogs.
did, wasn't it?
Barking Dogs.
Yeah,
Never
right
Bite.
through-
And then we worked.
Right through Joon-ho.
Wow.
Yeah, through Memories of Murder, through The Host, through Mother, and now we
Here we
arrive
are.
here with Parasite for a very special Oscars episode. And very special because that is where the name of this podcast comes from,
Yeah.
as we've talked about. When Bong Joon-ho won the Oscar for Best Director,
Yeah.
I believe it was his Best Director speech.
It was the
not
Best
his
Director
Picture
speech,
He said that there is a whole world of cinema out there for you to discover if you can overcome the 1-inch barrier of subtitles. And that's where we got our name from. And that's where we this idea was born.
Yeah.
It's very true. That's why he's the patron saint
Yes.
of the podcast. That's why we are Bong Joon's hoes. Trademark making a t-shirt. That is
Nick's been
what
sitting on
we-
that for 30 episodes.
I've been waiting to say it. But no, this was my introduction to Bong Joon-ho. Parasite
Yep.
was the first film of his I saw. Have you done Memories before Parasite?
No,
so
I
Parasite.
hadn't. But
Perhaps Mother. No, Mother was the first.
well,
film.
no,
Mother.
I feel like Parasite would have been the first foreign
Bong Joon-ho film.
Bong Joon-ho.
True, because of Snowpiercer,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I hadn't seen before.
It was definitely my first Korean Bong
Korean
Joon-ho
Bong
film.
Joon-ho.
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
I'd
Yeah.
watched Snowpiercer not knowing it was
Knowing
him.
who-
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I would be in the same
Yeah.
boat. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
this was the film that made me sit up and pay attention to
Yeah.
the name.
Dear
Bong Joon-ho.
God.
And
Did
I
I
was-
sit
I
up?
was-
Have I
was-
sat up every time I've watched this goddamn?
I was thinking about this while watching it this week. That it was. I feel like it was a really clever way to do his filmography.
Yeah.
To kind of go into a couple of US
Yeah.
English speaking films, probably get a bit of notoriety, bit of a following from that, and then basically put out what seems like, his complete masterpiece. The reason I was thinking about it, I'm watching it going, it's masterful in every single way.
Oh man.
And it's like, it feels like something that you've been waiting to do for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's his magnum opus.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why he swept. It was the first movie to win Best International Feature and Best Feature Film at the Oscars.
Yeah.
He won Best Director. There was, I believe it was nominated, if not winning, for Best Screenplay. It just,
When that won Best Picture.
just lost. Everyone lost it.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments where even everyone, I remember watching the Oscars that year, and everyone even in that room was like,
Yeah.
this is not just
deserve it.
history being made, but like this is the film that deserves it.
Yeah.
And his speech when he gets up and he's calling out all the other directors who were nominated, and he's like, I watched your movies. Like, this is, surreal. You guys, we joked last episode about the certain things could walk and run. He ultimately says that. He's like, you guys made these films that I watch so I can make a movie that's Parasite, which is his best film.
He's standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But he's a giant himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we looked at...
But far too humble to to say it.
Yeah,
But, because who else was nominated there? It was like Scorsese, Tarantino.
Tarantino was nominated as well. Yeah.
So, some big names
Yeah.
that he was calling out and saying
Obviously.
thank you for.
It was a incredible year for movies that year as well.
2019, bit of a
Yeah.
tangent, but 2019, I think, is one of the best
Yeah,
years for
I
films
agree.
in the last 25
It
years.
won Best Original Screenplay as well.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Understandably so.
And the Palme
2014
d'Or.
comes close.
Yeah,
2014 does.
come close.
Yes.
And it won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival
Yeah.
for the best movie at the Cannes Film
I
Festival.
wonder how many
as well.
films have won Palme d'Or and Best Picture, because they
That
go
would be-
for
they don't-
two very
Yeah.
different
Very interesting
kinds of movies.
And obviously
Yeah.
the first non-English language film to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So
Yeah.
this movie is breaking records, making history.
Did
and
the
it
artist
is-
not win Best Picture?
But
was the artist silent?
Silent, you're right.
Ah, yeah.
Got it.
we love technicalities at that 1-inch barrier, especially if
It is
they
a French
skew-
film. It is a French
Yeah,
silent
If
film.
they
Yeah.
skew towards our boy Bong Joon-ho, we will make sure the biased favoritism is there.
So if by some miracle you haven't seen Parasite,
Yes.
it is a 2019 South Korean film, as we said, from director Bong Joon-ho, the premise of which is greed and class discrimination threaten the newly formed symbiotic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan.
Love that they call them a clan, not
true.
a family. That's great. That's fantastic.
Very deliberate.
Very deliberate. And that's obviously been a theme in all of Bong Joon-ho's films is the divide between class structures and systems.
We have
in
talked
Korea.
so much
Yeah.
about class. It's such an obvious touching point for Bong Joon-ho. You even look at Snowpiercer,
Yeah.
which is one of his English language
Yeah.
films. And that wasn't an original film, was it? Snowpiercer was based off of a graphic novel.
I
feel
believe
like it
so.
was a
Yeah,
graphic
yeah, yeah.
novel,
It was
But you can
definitely-
see why
Why
he
he
was
picked it.
drawn to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've seen that in films like The Host, and we've seen it in Memories of Murder and Mother. Class is a big thing for him, and I don't think any more so prominently than in Parasite.
yeah.
Oh, it's very much his. It's almost. It's very dark comedy. It's very satirical, but it's almost this very angry sort of like. If you haven't got it at this point, this is what I'm trying to say. But he doesn't do it in a way that is losing sight of his cinematic genius.
Well, because normally that would, if you go too far into it, it's
Yeah.
gonna.
It feels like getting hammered over the
that's
head, right? Like, but
it's just so
God, he makes an
cleverly done.
entertaining thrill ride of a film that I've seen now 6 times.
Okay.
I think I've seen Parasite.
Okay.
So twice in the
This
cinema.
Might have been my third time.
I think
4
this was
times at home.
third for me
I
as
went
well.
through that phase of when it came out. Like I saw it twice at the cinema. Don't want to be a hipster, but I saw it.
But I'm going to be.
I'm gonna be. I saw it before you all liked it. No, I remember.
I saw it at
It was
Cannes.
just after it won the Palme d'Or, and there was advanced screenings.
Yeah, 'cause
and
I mean-
people were like aware of it.
Yeah.
but the screening I was at was like half full. It was a Friday night too, which is prime cinema time. And I remember sitting there watching it, and I had no idea what to expect. Again, not really aware of who Bong Joon-ho was.
yeah.
And I remember walking out of that going like, fuck, that might have been my favorite movie
Yeah.
of the year. But it was in like June.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not going to call it early. And it just stayed. And it was my favorite movie of
Yeah, I
2019,
remember
like in that
yours.
top
Yeah,
10.
yeah.
Absolutely loved
Yeah.
it. And then,
I had Uncut Gems for mine.
yeah, and I think I Cut Gems was close up
Yeah,
there for
yeah,
me as
yeah.
well. Again,
Yeah.
banging year for
Yeah,
movies.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But obviously then COVID comes after that and it gets released on Blu-ray in Australia. And I remember I watched it like twice during COVID.
Yeah, right.
Queensland, we got to like open up a little bit earlier. So like I was
Yeah.
like people were coming over and I was like, you got to fucking watch Parasite. It's like the best movie ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely like one that I've watched a lot because I showed
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of people
okay,
as well.
okay.
But I hadn't seen it in probably like 3 years
Okay.
before
Yeah, cool.
literally this morning.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Just before we move away from
Sorry,
the
yes.
awards too much.
I got so excited.
So as we mentioned, it did win the Academy Award for Best Picture and Best International Feature Film, which is why we're covering it on the show. It also won Best Director and Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah.
One of only 3 films to win both the Palme d'Or and Best Picture
Oh, what are the other
in over
two?
60 years. Don't know.
I was like, this is great. Okay, no, that's all right.
That'll be in the footnotes. We have footnotes now.
Yes, we do now.
Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film.
Yeah.
BAFTA Award for Best Film Not in the English Language. Became the first non-English language film to win the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by a Cast in a Motion Picture. It swept.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. The acclaim around this came into the Oscars like a fucking freight train.
Yeah.
huge.
And the really funny thing about that is I often think about weird segue, but I think about like the Olympics, right? Which we just had recently. You could be the second best sprinter who's ever lived,
Yeah.
right? But you just so happen to live at the same time as Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
You would dominate the 100-meter sprint any other year
Any other, yeah.
in history.
Yeah.
But you live at the same time as Usain
That's
Bolt.
right.
1917, Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, all these
Yeah.
great films that
Yeah.
came out in 2019
Yeah.
don't mean shit because you came out the same year as Parasite.
True.
And
Any other year, 1917
Yeah.
would have won Best
Yeah,
Picture.
yeah,
It would have
yeah.
swept the Oscars
Yeah.
because they love that shit.
Yeah.
but you just happen to come out the same year as Parasite.
One of the only films. It happens. It's more regular than not, but also one of the only films to have a unanimous win for the Palme d'Or as well. So everyone on the jury voted as the best film.
Okay, yeah,
which is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
and well deserved.
And not crazy and not crazy.
It's kind of because it's like it's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
And not just a critical success; it was a massive commercial success as well. Grossed $262 million worldwide on an $11.4 million budget. That's nearly 25 times return on investment, which for a non-horror film,
which is
it's astonishing. And Nick, how many consecutive weeks did it play at cinemas here in Brisbane?
So the last I saw, Palace Cinemas, indie art house cinema, friend of the show. Give us free stuff if you want. You're welcome for the shout out. No, but it became a running meme basically. And the last that I found that they posted was at the end of December, where they had a sign on their counter that said, "Yes, we're still showing Parasite, 24 weeks and counting." Now, it did play past that, and then just before COVID hit, they were also playing the black and white version of Parasite, which was released. So you can add another about 16 weeks onto that.
It ran for close to a year consecutively.
And they played it again once cinemas reopened. So if you take out that little time period, pretty much close to a full year. Yeah. Which is unheard of.
And that means people are going to see it. Cinemas don't have the spare screens to just run a screening.
Someone's not sitting there going like, I love Parasite and I want it there. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And it has to have a decent amount of people watching it. You know what I mean?
So they were still getting people through the door 12 months later
asking to watch
Parasite. Yeah. And I think that says it all.
That says it all. It does.
Really. Well, thank you for watching.
Shortest episode.
It's the best movie ever.
I'm actually amazed that was only an $11 million budget.
It looks incredible.
This movie
I guess a lot of it takes place predominantly in the house. Oh, I guess a fair bit of it does. And you got a really big sort of set piece, later on in the film,
Yeah. So as far as genre goes, Wikipedia describes it as a dark comedy thriller. Yeah. And that's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
We've talked previously with Bong Joon-ho's films about how he manages to interweave a comedy.
Yes.
Even like slapstick humor into very serious films. Like we see that in Memories of Murder, which is about a serial killer.
Yeah.
You know, we still get these like slapstick moments of comedy. And this is more in the dialogue, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, sure.
But it is still a really funny film for probably the first 45 minutes. And then something happens almost exactly halfway through the film, which when it's Bong Joon-ho, it's hard to not feel that
it's very meticulous.
Deliberate,
to make this pivot point where it turns from a dark comedy into a thriller to happen exactly 50% of the way through the film. And the tone shifts. And it's not gradual.
No,
it's sharp.
And there's still elements of that slapstick in there that becomes slightly more violent as it goes on. But I think the hardest I laughed in the entire film is the peach fuzz to tuberculosis reveal and the melodramatic music that's playing over this slow motion shot of a certain like a blood covered tissue getting revealed might be still one of the funniest things I think I've seen in it's like a top 10 comedic moment. The way frequent collaborator of Song Kang-ho turns to the camera and holds up this bloody tissue with these just doughy eyes. I piss myself laughing every single, and obviously there's a lot of context as to why that's funny, but Bong Joon-ho, he's just so aware of good comedy and not afraid to he really takes the piss.
Yeah.
Like, he's very good at satire and being like, we make fun of like the days of our lives and the young of our restless for like doing these things sincerely. I can make them funny by having them not feel sincere, but also be very pivotal to things that are going to happen.
Yes.
You feel like there's genuine stakes to what he's doing, but he's like, you're also going to laugh at it because it's ridiculous, because it's this wealthy family who are willing to fire their nanny because she has tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is bad, don't get me wrong, but like, it's just wild how like, and they want to sweep it under the rug. Like,
but even just the scene of, them rehearsing this script that they're going to feed. And the son saying, no, your emotions are up here, bring it down here.
And he just adapts on the spot. Like, it's so good.
And I mean, we haven't talked about it, but featuring a regular Bong Joon-ho collaborator, a guy we all absolutely love, in Song Kang-ho, who we saw in Memories of Murder and we saw in The Host, and now we see him here again in Parasite. In, I think, as brilliant as he is in those two films, this is incredible.
There is not a bad performance in this film.
There absolutely is
I do not think there's a bad performance.
No.
And there is a wide-ranging variety of performances in this film, especially as people, even characters get revealed in the second half.
Yeah, there's not a mediocre, there's not, like, it's just all on point.
Yeah, they all do a fantastic job with their characters, and I think they handle the tone shift.
Yeah, really well cast
shift
as well.
So well cast.
Like, it's really well cast.
And I think if we sort of talk about a bit about the plot, I think the first 5 minutes of the film, and it is about literally 5 minutes, because I was sort of having this on and, you know, checking where I was at in the time to kind of get a gauge for, you know, to talk about it. And it is the first 5 minutes. We pretty much know everything we need to know about the family.
Yes.
It's so well told. The first thing we see them doing is they live in this little semi-basement apartment. You know, they're below street level, and the tops of the windows is just on the bottom of the street level. And the son and the daughter are wandering around the apartment, holding their phones up, searching for free Wi-Fi. And they're annoyed because the cafe,
the lady upstairs has put a password on her Wi-Fi.
So
have you tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Have you tried it backwards? It's like, it's so good.
And that's the first thing we see them doing. And then we see them folding pizza boxes. As a family to try and make, you know, a quick buck.
It's the get rich quick scheme because they don't even do that well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like a quarter of these suck.
That is actually
we're gonna dock your pay.
The bit that I laughed at the hardest in the whole thing.
When they're watching.
When they're he's like, leave the windows open. They're fumigating the streets.
And that's the next scene is that they're folding these pizza boxes. There's someone fumigating the streets.
They're like,
the daughter goes, close the windows. And he goes, no, leave them open. They'll kill the stink bugs. We'll get free fumigation.
This is how good. We don't need to say it anymore, but how good Bong Joon-ho is. Because that's set up one scene before where he just goes, stink bug, flicks off the table. And then all of a sudden when the fumigation comes, he's just like, we got stink bug. Remember audience? We have that.
Yeah.
Bong Joon-ho is the master of the setup and payoff, because there are so many callbacks later in this film.
With Chekhov's rock,
Chekhov's lights, Chekhov, you know what I mean? Like,
there is nothing done without purpose.
No,
but I just love that. The first 5 minutes sets up the
family,
the Kim family, the Pua family, gets set up so perfectly within the first 5 minutes, and then the next, the first 45 minutes
in that first 5 minutes as well, when the Rock does rock up, and they're talking, I was like, wow. This is such a metaphor. Like,
it's metaphorical.
It's so metaphorical. And they're like,
so on the nose, but it's so.
Or they're having lunch at a driver's cafe for chauffeurs and limo drivers, and they're getting the free lunch there, and they're talking about how they're going to get the dad the limo job. Wow, that's so metaphorical. It's so
like, they're so dumb as well. But like because they're basically just a family of con artists, right? They're just moving from one get-rich-quick scheme to the next.
And I kind of, you wonder as well what got them into that position, because obviously it is a look at the class, and I think early on you're supposed to feel, I took it as you're supposed to feel a lot of empathy for these guys. Like, how did they get into this situation? And as things happen, you kind of go, did they get themselves into this situation as well? You know what I mean? So it's kind of deeply layered.
And I mean, to get real nitty gritty on the themes of it, that's when you start looking at who's the real parasite, right? You know, is it this poor family who are sort of manipulating? Because that's the whole sort of premise of the film in the first 45 minutes is that the poor family start to work their way in to the lives of this rich family, the Park family. That first starts with the son becoming an English tutor for the daughter of the rich family, and then they find out that the young son of the rich family has artistic tendencies. So
and a little bit of trauma. That's revealed later on in the film.
and so the Kim son says, oh, well, I know someone who does art therapy. And it's just his sister.
That scene where Jessica comes in and is just bullshitting her way through the aisles. If you just look at this corner, means he has schizophrenic tendencies. And then the mum's like, oh my God. And he does it on this. It's so fucking oh man.
So Kevin, the Kim's son,
Kevin.
Mr. Kevin, is the English tutor. He's worked his way into the family as this English tutor. And he's probably the only one who's sort of legitimately worked his way in, because he gets recommended by a friend of his who's going overseas, who was the English tutor. And he says, hey, I'm going overseas. Can you take over this job for me?
I trust you to do it.
Yeah. And so then he brings in his sister as the art therapy
They
teacher.
weaponize that though as well, because he gets in based on the recommendation, finding out that the family is very much like, we're only going to trust people who you trust. Like, we've let you in. Okay, well then that recommendation stems on
we trust
which is that
recommendation.
con artist sort of thing. Like you pick up on the patterns, you pick on the weaknesses of
And then they go, oh, we can get the husband, the Park husband is a rich businessman who has his own personal driver. Oh, if we can get him fired, we can get our dad the job as the driver, because he used to drive, he used to be a valet. And then if we can get the housekeeper fired, we can bring in our mother as the housekeeper. And it's like a heist film.
It is. But, and each time it happens, each person, it's like this. To me, it wasn't. They didn't go in thinking that. These little light bulb moments happen during conversation with these people.
That's it. It was just, I'm just going to go and teach English to this daughter.
I can make a bit of money,
family. But hang on. I could get my sister a job as the oh, hang on.
Her bit in the car.
Oh my God! Yeah.
The way she gets the driver fired.
Gets the driver fired, and how quickly she seems to think
about it. You kind of.
I can. It's like, wow.
I love. There's a bit just before Kevin before he goes to interview to be the tutor, and Jessica has made this forged university degree document because he hasn't gone to university, and between the dad and the son of being like, I know this document's fake, but it means it could be real one day. And it's like I've just got my acceptance, like my letter early, and I'm gonna go to university. He's like, I'm so proud of you.
And is it the dad who's watching her forge these documents? Like, does Harvard have a class on forgery?
If they did, you'd be top of the class. Yeah,
like the comedy is so.
It's so very real. Funny.
It's so there.
It's very
so funny.
They're just so oblivious to like how in over their heads they are, but they see the dollar signs. They see the.
I said these aren't smart con artists. They're a family of idiots who found a family of even bigger idiots.
Well, and they
to prey on.
There's a moment just before that halfway point through the film where the rich family go on vacation and they use the house like for their own. They get drunk and stuff. Yeah. And I can't remember who says it out of the family, but they're like, yeah, we're really smart. And the dad goes like, they're not that smart. We're not that smart. They're just gullible.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Like that's just, he's kind of this understanding of like, yeah, we're not great because we are in this shit situation, but these guys just happen to be dumber than us, and that's worked out very well in our advantage.
Right. And that comes back to that thing of who is the parasite, right? Like the poor family preying on the rich family. Are we supposed to feel sorry for the poor family because they, a lower socioeconomic class? They have to fight and scrap to survive. Yeah. So is it that bad that they're taking advantage of a naive rich family, or are they terrible people? But are the rich people parasites because they, make money on the back of the working class?
The working class, yeah.
So it's...
Well, that sort of comes to light, doesn't it, as well, when the Kim family have an encounter with someone who's even worse off than them, in a sense. And then there's all of a sudden this shift in, I am holier than thou. I'm going to call the police about this certain thing, when you kind of go, you're doing the exact same fucking thing. Yeah. Like that's right. It's great. I think the moral, and it's something we've talked about with Bong Joon-ho's filmography before, the moral complexities of the characters are so fascinating and so well written that you kind of then go, what would I do in that situation? You know what I mean? If I was this person.
Yeah. And that is if you're in that situation, that is how you would act.
Yeah, exactly right. The desperate times, desperate measures,
survival sort of.
Well, here you go. So I've only just read this now, but the film's title, Parasite, was selected by Bong as it served as a double meaning, and he had to convince the film's marketing group to use it. He said, because the story is about the poor family infiltrating and creeping into the rich house, it seems very obvious that Parasite refers to the poor family. And I think that's why the marketing team was a little hesitant.
Okay, yeah.
But if you look at it the other way, you can say that the rich family, they're also parasites in terms of labor. They can't even wash dishes, they can't drive themselves, so they leech off the poor family's labor, so both parasites.
Yes.
The scene where they don't have the housemaid for like at least a couple of days, and how stacked the dishwasher is, and how just the mum's trying to cook, and the husband is like, she can't cook, she can't clean. But then it's funny because we see the similarities of like, you know, the Kim clan, as the description called it, love each other in a way that they love each other's talents and skills to help get where they need to go. We get nice-ish moments of them bonding as a family in some ways, but they're normally just celebrating their successes. I don't really see them bonding. Then you see that with the rich family though as well. It's this on the veil of what a nice family should look like. But then the husband says something in the car, you know, they're driving and she's like, can't cook, can't clean. He's like, but you still love her, right? He's like, you can call it love. And you kind of go, fuck. And then, you know, the dad makes a point of like when they're going to go away camping for the son's birthday, and he's like, even your busy dad took time off for your birthday. And you go, what the fuck, dude? Like, that's right. So it's funny to look at this, like, you know, you look at the Kim family looking up to the Park family. It's like, that is what we want. This is but they're just as fucked up and disheveled as, and it's just so interesting to see. And there's so many things that I picked up on this watch that I didn't the previous watches as well. That is just so intricate into the idea of like, the class system is so divided. I think Bong Joon's so angry at the class divide, but it's also like, there shouldn't be one because we're all just as fucking weird as each other and not, you know.
Some with money, some with
money, some with not. That's the main difference.
But who's the real bad guy?
Yeah, that's right.
It's, I mean, this, as you said, it's one of those films that you really do get more out of each time you watch it.
God,
I watched this early this week in preparation for the show. It's like I said, probably the third time I've watched it. I'll watch it again.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll watch it again after that. And you'll just pick up on different things each time. You know, one of the things that I picked up on this time is that there's a lot of references to crossing the line. You know, the Park family are very adamant that they don't like their help crossing the line, you know, understanding their place. You know, that very privileged attitude of you know, knowing that you're over there and I'm over here sort of thing. And the way that's used visually, there's a fantastic shot early on in the film where the housekeeper, the maid, has to wake up the Park mother. She's sleeping outside at the table, and the window is split vertically with the maid on one side of the window and the mother on the other. And she claps to wake her up, and she puts her arms through the line.
Wow.
Interesting.
You know, that's her crossing the line. And I'm sure there's more examples of that.
Bong Joon-ho is a genius. God damn it.
And with any other director, it would feel obvious, right? Like, but he just does it in such a subtle and meaningful way.
Well, you're looking through the window, you know what I mean? Not looking at the where it's split and stuff, so that's just
that's right.
And I think that's before anyone makes a reference to, because the dad actually talks about crossing the line.
So in the car,
you know, if it had been said beforehand, then it would seem obvious, but using it visually before using it textually.
That's just reminded me of a film that did stuff like that very cleverly, which was American Beauty.
Oh, yes. Yeah, for sure.
And that kind of was done in a similar way, where before those things were alluded to, he's got like the bars on the computer screen of all the writing, and that was then like sort of behind bars. And that was
he feels like.
I mean, Sam Mendes is a fantastic director.
I agree.
Well, 1917, the same year.
True.
But it's as is the case with all of Bong Joon-ho's films, it's so deeply layered and so thematic. But this is, I think, the one that has the most rewatchability. It has the most to unpack. It has the most depth to it.
But it's entertaining at the same time. It's
well, like I said, it genuinely feels like a heist film. But rather than trying to break into a bank or
they're just infiltrating
infiltrating a family home. You know, through finding work for each other. And as you said, you sort of feel sympathetic for them. But then they get the driver fired, and that's the first person who they've caused to lose their job so that they can get in, because Kevin and Jessica get their jobs
quite naturally.
But then they fire the driver so that their dad can become the new driver, and that's the time you go, oh, that guy did nothing wrong.
And then the moral complexity of that comes up, where the dad kind of starts going, like when they have their drunk in the house, he starts going like,
I wonder.
Yeah,
if
we
that
did.
guy-
I wonder what that guy's doing. And everyone's
reckon
like,
he's got
"Oh, yeah, he's
another
all right."
job?
And Jessica's like, she's like, shut up. You got to think about us.
Yeah,
you got to think.
yeah.
You can't think about other. And it's just
I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he got another
like
better
Jessica's
job.
a savage in this film. Jessica is brutal. She's like, I'm the best. And then she adapts to that lifestyle so quick. Her brother talks about she's in the bathtub and she's got like the head towel on, the bubbles everywhere. And he
says
rolls
to her,
on.
I feel you feel at home here.
Yeah.
This suits you.
Yeah.
This is what she wants to fight for. You know what I mean? So it's just so incredible. And then that's sort of where the movie starts to switch into that thriller.
Yeah.
Not without giving us one more laugh before it starts getting dark, which is the housemaid who comes back and how close she is to the doorbell camera.
I know.
Just like
It's
this
really
close.
cartoonish.
It's so cartoonish.
It's so with a kind of.
I was the
messed up face
housemaid. You'll
from
know
what-
this because the dog's pictures are above that, and like it's just so funny.
But it
And
is
how she-
genuinely very funny for the
She
first
really
hour or
walks
so.
like
Yeah.
the penguin from Batman. She's like humbling into the
Waddles.
house.
It's
so
the
intentional.
first half of the movie is hilarious.
Oh, it's
But even-
funny.
So when the Park family go on this camping trip and the Kims all decide to basically have a party in their house,
Which is
eat all their
so
food
dumb.
and drink all their
It's
beer.
Oh,
just
yeah.
so dumb.
Dumb family
Yeah,
makes dumb decisions.
That's right.
But there's a scene where Kevin and goes into the room of the daughter who he's teaching English to, and he sort of begun this sort of like secret relationship with her.
Yeah.
Which again speaks to his character because his friend who he's replacing said to him, "Hey, like when I come back, I'm gonna ask this girl out." But I don't trust any.
He's gonna wait till she's in uni because he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, so he's a
And it's not
university graduate
problematic at
and
all.
she's in high school, so it's totally normal.
Moral completely.
And he says to Kevin, I want you to take over because
he says look after her.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like
I
all of
trust you.
my friends from university, I don't trust them to not make moves on
Yeah.
it, but I trust you.
Yeah.
So what does he do? First day he's there.
Just hitting on.
Yeah.
She's loves the uni guys, like obviously.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, well, I'm not mature enough to not reciprocate this. And next minute she's feeding fruit into his mouth, and you're like, whoa.
So the first thing he does when they go away is go into a room and takes a diary.
Yeah,
To learn
wow.
about her, to connect.
But
with
he's sat there on the couch sort of reading it, and Jessica goes to him, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's her diary." And she's like, "Oh man, you're such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Why would you read a diary?" And then takes it off and starts reading it.
Oh man,
Yeah.
Jessica.
Like little visual
Wild.
gags like that.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's so funny. And then we do get that tonal shift and the reveal halfway through the film when we find out that the original housekeeper who'd been there before the Park family moved in, she was the maid to the architect who built the house.
Because it's a very sort of stylistic, modern.
It's very, very beautifully architecturally
architecturally
designed,
designed house,
which was actually a set.
I did
Yes,
read
I
that.
read
Yes,
that.
Yeah, so
Because
it was-
I've seen the shots of the blue screen that they used. behind
So
it,
the house was only the first floor,
Yeah.
and it was an outdoor set,
Yeah.
and with a second floor that was CGI,
Right on. That's
and then the,
incredible. That's right, yeah,
and then the basement, which is where we go next,
later. It
was all built in a studio.
incredible.
But we find
I
out
thought that because when we go down into like, there's a lot of stairs that goes down. I was like, whoa, we're on a journey.
But they do a great job of making the house feel like a real
Very
house.
real and
It
lived
doesn't
in,
feel
yeah.
like a set.
Oh yeah, massive.
But the housekeeper arrives in the middle of the night when the Kim family, are having this party, and goes, "Oh, I'm the old housekeeper.
I've left
I've left something in the basement. Can you just let me in?" And they're like, "Oh shit, what do we do? I guess we got to let her in." They let her in. She goes down to the basement. They're like, "Oh, what are you looking for?"
And she's down there for a long time initially.
And she's like, "Oh, well, come and see." Sort of
And because the rest of the family have
But that
a hiding way. The reveal,
the scene,
the fucking shot where the Kim mum walks down.
yeah, and
And she's perched between the wall and the bookcase off the ground.
horizontal.
Like she's fucking
Yeah.
trying to
push this
What is
bookcase
going on?
to reveal a
the-
hidden door behind the bookcase.
Was the most. I remember seeing that for the first time in the cinema, and I genuinely feel like I remember this. If I hope I'm not making it up, someone I think actually went, "What the fuck?"
Yeah,
Which is the most appropriate
it is,
response.
yeah.
And then she's well, that's it. She's got her legs up against the wall and she's
probably
pushing the
about a meter
bookcase.
and a bit off the ground.
And then the bookcase moves and she just falls flat on her face onto the floor, like smashes up her face. And then we see that there's this hidden door going down into a secret basement.
Down there, like,
that's when it's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Because up to this point, it's been, like we said, a bit of a dark comedy. And then shit gets real creepy and weird. We go down into the basement and we find that the original housekeeper, her husband, has been living in the basement for several years.
4 years.
Because he's hiding from debt collectors.
Because they say they are worse off than what the Kim family are, right?
Yeah. You know, she's like,
even further,
he's been living down here 4 years.
Even further underground than the semi-basement. Yeah. And it's funny because he talks about, it's like, there are so many of us who live underground, even more if you count the semi-basement. So he's making a point of being like, we're worse off than the Kim family, who are the oh, woe me family of this film, right? Like, life is so bad for us. And it's not that it's good, but you know what I mean? Like, it's...
And the Kim family, you know, are sort of going, well, what you're doing is wrong. And it's sort of like, that's different to what you're doing.
High horse they get on, right? They just get on that high horse straight away. They have now become the Park family in this situation. Get away from me, poor person. This is my... I'm here getting drunk in this house. It's not mine.
Well, that's the housekeeper says to them, you know, like, I just come down here and he lives down here. He doesn't bother anyone. I bring him food that I pay for with my own money. So he's not even stealing the Park family's food.
And like, they don't know the basements, this secondary basement here and stuff. And
so it doesn't affect anyone, but the Kim family go, well, no, that's wrong, even though they've cost people their jobs and lying. And
it's that moral.
And the housekeeper says, you know, just please let him stay here. But then when she finds out that the whole Kim family are there, and she finds out that they're all related, you know, that it isn't
you're the tutor and you're the driver and you're the therapist.
Why did you just call him Dad?
Like, call me Dad. It's so...
and then it switches. The power balance changes. Goes, oh
good.
Yeah, you're all actually frauds.
But the funny thing is, in the innocence of the old housemaid and her husband who were down there, they loved the old architects so much that they were also like they loved this life of servitude as well. They understood that they were living that fantasy as well. When he went to go away, they were like, we don't get this anymore. And so he automatically thinks a life of servitude is what will get him the riches that he wants. So he's still been doing things this whole time. And like, I think the light reveal is one of the greatest, I don't know if you can call it a twist or something, but just what that ends up being is, I think, one of the most genius things I've ever seen in a film.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. And him just banging his head on those light switches but sending So then earlier in the film, when we hear about how the son, the Park family son, who has all this schizophrenic trauma apparently, brought on by art therapy, is like, the lights are talking to me. And they're like, you're just fucking mental. And he's like, no, he's the whole time. Because he used to be a scout. And this life servitude, he knows. It's just the Bong Joon-ho is the setup and payoff king of cinema. Everything in this movie is so entirely satisfying. Oh, even the last 10 minutes.
It's like a house of cards.
Right.
It's like this beautifully, delicately crafted thing where everything is so precise. And then within the last sort of 15 minutes, we watch as he smashes the whole thing down.
And he does it with just reckless abandon and like love to do it. Like, he's just like, look at this. And then Bong Joon-ho's like, I have the hand, and just goes bang. And I'm just like, you're Bong Joon-ho, you can do that. Like, fuck me up, man. Like,
that's right.
He's so good.
So Bong said the film was influenced by a 1960 Korean domestic gothic film called The Housemaid.
Yeah, wow.
In which a middle-class family's stability is threatened by a disruptive interloper in the form of household help. And the incident of Christine and Leah Papin, two live-in maids who murdered their employers in 1930s France.
Wow.
As well as that, Bong also tutored for a rich family himself.
Interesting.
I believe he was an English tutor. And he said that he got this feeling that he was infiltrating the private lives of complete strangers. Every week I would go into their house and I thought, how fun would it be to get all my friends to infiltrate the house one by one?
That's good.
I love it. He's just like, you know what? I shouldn't act this out in real life because that's wrong. But a movie, perhaps.
I feel like that's about how half of movies come about. It's just a director being like, I want to do this in real life, but I can't.
I think
let's put it in the film.
I know he said something similar with Host as well. He was like, yeah, just imagine like at this point in my life if like a monster came out of the river. Like there's all this contamination happening. He's like, what if a monster just came out?
Oh, I think that was the thing, right? He saw the news story
about
he's like, just imagine the river getting
polluted with this toxic chemical. And he's like, oh, what would happen if that just suddenly made like some giant mutant fish?
Yeah. Bong Joon-ho is just letting his intrusive thoughts become films, and I'm all here for it.
That's what we all
It's like, keep doing
intrusive thoughts win.
What is Mickey 17 going to be? Like, what is this thought he's had from Mickey 17, right?
Yeah.
Which is apparently about suicidal robots or some shit. Like, I can't wait. Again, similar to the last episode, we've talked about how great the characters and the story are. This is a beautiful looking film.
It's incredible.
I think every aspect of the cinematography, his direction, and the way he chooses to shoot things are as meticulous as his screenplay, without a doubt. It's just stunning.
It is stunning. It is,
and his visual metaphors of one of my favorite things is as the rain is coming down and the Kim family have to go back to their house, you kind of watch, there's this constant descent. They're always going down hills. They're always going downstairs. And it's just these small visual motifs of us going like, they are plunging right back into the basement of life, I guess, right? You know what I mean? It's just incredible. And the power dynamic shifts in conversations. You look at something in the car where just before the wife gets hired as the housemaid and Song Kang-ho is offering the card, the way the Park family dad is slouched in the car, just the way his positioning, and then, constantly panning down to him and looking down, like the power dynamic through the visual medium. And then we already talked about the tuberculosis scene and just how perfect that's filmed. But there is one shot I think that we can all collectively agree might be the best shot of the film, also the most terrifying shot of the film. And it's one where, and I think we talked about this in the Memories of Murder episode, where I think Bong Joon-ho is fantastic at making the creepiest shots in movies that aren't necessarily...
that in the guy that comes out.
Comes out of the reeds.
He also, there's one coming out of the field as well.
There is,
which is actually, now that I've thought about that, is actually quite a similar thing.
A similar shot.
Yeah.
But it's this darkness. There's the darkness that leads down to the basement, and it's what we find out the son had this traumatic triggering event for him is the man in the basement when he first reveals himself to the family. And it's just this, they've perfectly cast this, and I don't want to talk down to the actor who's cast him, but he's got a particular look.
He's a creepy looking motherfucker.
He's a creepy looking motherfucker. He's got the eyes. He got them eyes. And just his head just comes up like the stairwells here, and his head just pops up and it stops just as his eyes get over, and there's these bulging white eyes in the darkness. Could you imagine being like a 6-year-old kid and seeing, no wonder the kid had a goddamn seizure from that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But it's a perfect shot.
It's terrifying.
So uneasy, and it's odd. Because did you see this in the cinemas?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't you? Did you remember that shot in the cinema? Like, I remember being there and just being, I sit way too close to the front because I'm like, I want every film to feel like IMAX. And I remember I just felt like that guy was just in front of me. I was like, I don't like this. I was like, well, get me out of here.
And that's it. He doesn't do anything. It's literally just his head and then these eyes peering up over the top of a staircase.
It's not that long of a shot. It's actually it's far quicker than I remembered. Yeah.
But it sticks out.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
If you've seen the film, you know the shots.
Oh, boy. Yeah. It's just, it's a beautiful looking film. And it's just Bong Joon-ho's just gone from strength to strength visually as a director as well. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest sort of examples of that class divide and how out of touch the Park family are with the lives of people like the Kim family is that sort of 2/3 of the way through this film, we get this sort of absolute torrential downpour and this sort of like flooding event basically. And so the Kim family escape from the Park house after the Park family come home early from their camping trip. They sneak out, they head back to their semi-basement, and they find that the place has been completely flooded and they've lost all of their belongings. And, you're watching them run past people's houses and people are trying to, bail water out with buckets to stop their houses from flooding. There's water literally exploding out of the toilet because the pipes
they say it's sewage water.
And they're literally fishing out their most prized possessions from this dirty flooding semi-basement apartment. And it's so depressing and dark and dire, and it really shows how awful that situation is for those people. And then the next day, obviously they all have to go back to pretending to do these jobs for the Park family, and the father is driving the rich mother around, and she's talking on the phone about how the weather is really good today, and how the rain came through and it made everything really nice and green, and there's no clouds in the sky, and like she's like, oh wow, we really needed that rain. It's made everything so nice. And meanwhile you've got this guy in the front seat driving you around who's lost his home,
because isn't she sort of saying it's so nice for this party we're going to have? It's made it nice and green.
And thank God we had this rain.
Thank God we've had it, because the party's going to be
great now.
Meanwhile, with the previous scene, we've got these people losing everything because of that very same rain. So this one event being interpreted
Song Kang-ho's face in that thing is just... Oh,
there's a big change there.
Big change, and it's just it's the show.
That's like, you've gone too far.
Yeah, and it's the line's been crossed.
Yeah,
he's a master. He's the best.
I do, just on that flood scene, I do love when Jessica sits on that toilet to stop it. And she just sits there and has a cigarette. It's almost...
It's just like,
she's at one with the situation.
Just resigned to
Jessica is the character who always struck me as like, she has to do what needs to be done in that moment. Like she's just like, this is just part of what we have to do. She reaps the rewards when she wants to, but she's like, to me is like
she's the most ruthless.
The most ruthless. Like this is just this is it. She is the it is what it is person. For sure. Whereas there's a little bit more reckless hope with the other three members of the family, I would say.
And the line is sort of really crossed for Mr. Kim, as he is called, the father of the Kim family. When they're hiding underneath the coffee table when the Park family come home, and they're listening to the Park mother and father, talking, and the Park father starts talking about how Mr. Kim's a really good driver, and they're glad that they got him, and it's a shame what happened to the other guy. But he has a really bad smell.
He's
like, and that's one thing I can't stand, and it's people who smell bad.
And he's like, that's the one thing that,
and it's just that snobbish.
He's like, it's something you smell on the subway. And then the subway people are...
and I think he says the smell crosses a line.
I think you're right.
And then the next day when the mother is talking
to add insult to injury, he fucks his wife on the couch then afterwards. Why he's like, now we're going to have sex on the couch.
While they all have to listen.
Which is another hilarious. It's really funny.
But then because they're reenacting what the driver would have been doing in the car.
Exactly, that's right.
Because it's like, you're going to buy me drugs?
The driver gets fired because they think that he's
on methyl cocaine.
He's had sex with a woman in the back of his car while high on meth. Or because they found some underwear in the car.
I love the logical jump.
Because the lady didn't remember to take her underwear.
So she was obviously on cocaine or meth.
Man.
And then they're dirty talking with each other like, but I'm meth.
Literally.
It's so weird.
Let's have sex like the poor people do. It's like,
Fucking rich people. Why can't they just have normal finishes? Just be in defeat like Tarantino is. But it's, and then you have the mother getting driven by Mr. Kim the next day, and she sort of like pinches her nose at one point and is like, what's that smell? And he's, you can tell his blood's boiling at this, like, this fucking family.
I love when the son smells them all. He's like, they all smell the same. And it's just like, we're going to start using different soaps and different fabric softeners and laundry detergents. And the mum's like, I'm going to do 4 loads of washing.
That's right.
It's so good.
And the last 15 minutes is wild. It's signature Bong Joon-ho just going batshit crazy, and it works. It works so well.
It really does work.
It is that house of cards just imploding in and of itself. Like everything that's been built up, story-wise, but also in terms of what's actually happening on the screen, all just falls apart.
It's so metaphorical.
Yeah.
It's so metaphorical.
Yeah.
Very bittersweet ending.
Yeah.
To the
it is.
very bittersweet, but perfect nonetheless. I don't think there's an aspect of this movie I'd change at all.
No.
This is a perfect film.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Yeah, it's definitely. I guess my only thing is I don't know. He can't get any better, surely.
Where do you go from?
That? But I'm still obviously.
Oh, I'm in his corner.
Yeah.
Recklessly defending
anything he brings out, I'm going to be there day one.
Yeah.
I mean, it speaks to the film that I think we talked about this with Stalker. You go to the Wikipedia page for it, and the section on themes and interpretations is half of the article.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, you know, and it's linking to things like, see also economic inequality in South Korea.
There we go.
Yeah.
You know, and it's making reference to capitalism and Karl Marx.
Oh my God, just randomly as well. The scene where there's the power shift between the Kim clan and the old housemaid and her husband, and they do the North Korean newsreader bit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny that like these guys have been put in such destitution by their own country that they're willing to make fun of the fact that like, it could all get blown up one day.
Yeah.
Like who gives a shit? Our life is so bad that if North Korea bombs South Korea with the last nuclear, as long as it goes down the throats of the Kim family, as she says, it's just wild. Like the distinction between lower class and lower class is still at play.
Yes.
But then you even look at the influences of like colonialism and imperialism and the obsession with Western culture, and how the young son of the Park family is obsessed with Native Americanness.
Well, he has the Cowboys and Indians party, right? And
and that's the mum's talking about. Oh, you know, that's a really good quality tent. We bought it from
the US.
From the US.
Yeah, it won't get in.
Yeah. And just how that attitude of you know, of the Americans is, and that would be a very different attitude, I imagine, for the working class and how they feel about you know, Western influences, and that's obviously been something that Bong Joon-ho has covered in his previous films. You know, in the host
for sure,
especially in I think Memories of Murder as well, given the time period. So he uses a lot of those same themes, but I think he approaches them differently in each film, and that's what keeps it feeling
They all
fresh.
feel wildly different too. Like the films themselves are so unique. Like you look at the Memories to Murder to Host as two completely different genres, and then you get the familial drama in Mother, and then you jump to something like Parasite, which is sure it's a familial drama, but let's do this darkly satirical. Even though there was elements of satire in Mother, this dark thriller about, you know, like you said, it's a heist film, it's an invasion movie, it's a home invasion movie, just not to the extent of what we know them as. And that cultural divide is just so great. There's another great moment where when they're coming home from the camping, they're like, oh, do you know how to make ramdon? Which is this dish that was made up for the film, which is ramen and udon noodles put together. And, you know, ramen, I think culturally as well, is seen as sort of just like a, you know, it's a common dish. It's very common. But they see it as this poor, they're like this throw together.
Yeah, it is a poor.
But then they add sirloin
steak to it.
The most beautiful
that's just
looking.
it looks so yum. And there's a YouTube channel, Cooking with Babish.
Yeah, and
I've made it. And
and I have made that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, good. While I'm living in my semi-basement.
The one off Babish.
But it's like ordering a McDonald's cheeseburger and throwing a Wagyu strip loin.
Yeah,
exactly. That's
like a $50 one.
But just the house over the phone, she's like, just make it. Like,
we'll be home in 5 minutes.
There's a nice piece of
make sure it's ready as we
make sure it's and it's just so funny.
And then they get home and he doesn't even want to eat it.
Right? Yeah.
It looks good though. I'm hungry.
And then, and then the mother says, "Oh, he doesn't want it. Why don't you have it?" To the housekeeper, and she's like, "Oh no, wait, it's got sirloin in it. I can feed it to my husband."
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not good enough for that.
Yeah.
There's so many little moments like that. If you're not actively picking up on them, they just happen so quickly and so unceremoniously.
That's right.
You need to watch this movie 100
more than
times.
Yeah, for sure.
Minimum.
Yeah.
If you want to call yourself a cinephile, you have to watch Parasite 100 times. And I'm on my way. I'm getting there. Bit by bit, day by day.
7?
6 times, yeah.
I mean, we have to ask, but sure. I don't really know the point. Star ratings? 5.
6.
Yeah.
Probably, to be honest, 7 maybe. It's a perfect movie.
Is this like your favorite film?
Okay, so it's funny. It's actually really funny you saying this. So as spoken on the Infernal Affairs episode, The Departed is my favorite movie of all time.
Right. Yeah,
but it's the one because it's the one that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
Watching this today,
Yeah.
and my partner was there for some of it. I like, for context, I watched this at like 6 o'clock this morning. I started my day with Parasite.
Yeah.
The day can only get worse from here. And I was sitting there, and I turned to her at one point. I was like, I think this might be one of my favorite movies ever made.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely up there. Like, if we were going to throw a number at it, like, it would be a top 5.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
It's just perfect in every way.
And
what I get out of it, like the enjoyment I get out of it, but it's a compelling character study.
Yeah.
I like the moral complexities. I'm so hooked by the story. It looks amazing. Like there's so many elements. Like for me as a movie, what I love about movies is just on full display. So,
I think for most people, as we've seen, how, it did so well. I'm watching it just the whole time, just thinking, I've
never met anyone who doesn't like this film, and I'm sure,
like, you can't make
us
this
putting
better.
this on the internet, there'll be someone who's like, I fucking hate Parasite, and if you do, then get off our channel. No, you can say, you can hang around. You'll find another thing you like. But that's what, I don't think I've met anyone who actively dislikes this movie, right? I think, was it a 5 star? Sorry, on the first one?
It was not for me.
Okay.
It wasn't on the first time, and I remember you saying that's best film of the year, and I was like, oh no. And I looked back, I think I put it at like 5 or 6 of that year.
No, we've spoken about this since.
But
actually,
for me, it was the second watch was where I picked it all up.
Sure.
And then it would have, the second time was definitely 5 star.
And then
it was a 5 straight off the bat for me.
That for you?
Yeah. It's, I mean, as we've talked about, it's rare that I'll give a 5 on the first viewing. As soon as this finished, I knew it was a 5. It's a perfect film.
I just wasn't clever enough. I'm like, what? So second time, I'm like, oh.
I grew cleverness, and then here we go.
I remember when I did my...
You got Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
When I did my best of 2019, I think I had it second. I think I had 1917 as my favorite film of the year.
Yeah.
I've not seen 1917 since, and I've seen this twice more.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think this would probably go ahead now. It's probably the best film we've done on the show, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the best foreign language films ever made. I think it's probably one of the best films.
I think it's just one of the best films ever made. Yeah.
I don't think that's hyperbole. I think this is genuinely one of the greatest movies of all time. And I think in the same way that we just talked about Seven Samurai on its 70th anniversary, people will still be talking about Parasite in 70 years.
I think so.
It is a modern day Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Agree.
That's the elevator pitch.
There you go. It's just...
Not only did it win a shitload of Oscars, it is just literally one of the best films.
Yeah, if you were on the fence about all the awards, now that you've heard us talking about it, that's what's going to
when it literally made Oscar history by being the first non-English language film to win Best Picture.
Means nothing. When you've got that 1-inch barrier endorsement, though.
The true accolades are coming forward now. 5 stars across. Is that the first time there's been a consistent 5 across the board?
No, the Hunt.
The Hunt, true. Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I think that was a 5 across the board.
We've got our boys, Vinterberg and Bong Joon-ho.
With their regular collaborators in Mads Mikkelsen and Song Kang-ho.
So there we go. So
yes.
We've done well, but it is just, this movie's perfect. It's
Do you have a favorite performance? It's hard to pick.
There's the sky blue. Like that's you know what I mean? Like I think the one that I has changed since watching it first. The actress who plays Jessica.
Yeah.
I think Jessica as a character, I've become far more intrigued by as the rewatches have happened. And I think she's perfect in the film. I think she is the one who stands out from the Kim family for me.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen the first time. Like, because obviously I was like, oh, I know the Song Kang-ho face. And I was like, he's great. And funnily enough, because a lot of the movie hinges around Kevin, the son, right? Like the crux of the film really is because of him. So that's interesting. But yeah, I think the actress who plays Jessica, for me.
Park So-dam as Kim Ki-jung, or Jessica as she's called. I mean, it's hard to go past Song Kang-ho.
Brilliant.
And I agree
as
with
Kim Ki-tae.
Like he's been amazing in every one, but this one he is just
on a whole other level.
Yeah.
His facial expressions, he's always had really good facial expressions in the films that we've watched, but this one is where it really stands out. There's the sort of finale at the birthday party and the facial expressions that he has there.
Yes.
You know, and I think if you've seen the film, you'll kind of know that scene where he's got the Native American headdress on. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that scene, like, well, we're paying you, is like, whoa.
Yeah. Again, that don't cross the line.
Line. That's right.
Remember your place.
Yeah.
You know, you were over there in your little corner. We are over here.
Yeah.
Don't get your wires crossed.
Yeah,
We're
that's
not
right.
your friend.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's probably one of the best films about sort of class divides and wealth inequality and things like that. You know, I think we've other Bong Joon-ho films obviously covered it. We've looked at it in films like Et tu m'as tambien. But I think this is probably one of the best at covering that. And I think that the lines blurring, as we said, between who's the parasite, who's the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, who's taking advantage of who here.
Yeah.
I want to give a special shout out to the Park mother as well, who's played by Yo Jung.
Yeah, she's
because I think to play a character who is that naive, but do it in a way that doesn't feel like a caricature is quite a tough one to
she's a very sort of
balance.
cliche dumb trophy wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, like doesn't know how to do any housework, doesn't know even how to raise her kids.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And there's this dull-eyed nature about her, but I think to actually do that very sincerely is incredible. So.
Yeah. As we said, there's not a bad performance. You know, the way that the Park father, just looking for the...
Oh, I've got his name here, sorry.
Lee Sung-kyun as Park Dong-gik. Like his gravitas, you know, he sees this big high-powered businessman.
Yeah.
You know, his voice reminds me, I know it's Korean, but like when you watch like Japanese cartoons and you like have the big booming dad voice.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
really...
you know, he has this real presence about him.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And the whole Kim family is, and again, you talked about the casting of the basement guy.
Yeah, it's just perfect, right? It's just
he seems like a genuine nut job who's been living in a basement.
Yeah, he does.
The way he eats the banana. So off-putting as well.
It really is.
Oh my God, man. Just
It is.
And he's just holding it at the base and just sort of like...
And so slowly too, and then just puts his whole mouth over it. And rather than biting to chew, he kind of like lippy gnaws at it, and it's so fucking off-putting. But it's just like, you'd want to... The way he also sculls milk out of a baby bottle. Like his wife...
That's the introduction, isn't
it? Man. You are just...
And then drinks milk out of the baby bottle and then fillets a banana.
Yeah.
And then bangs, when he's tied up, bangs his head against light switches and shouts how much he loves Mr. Park.
Yeah.
And how much he respects him.
Yeah.
What a wild...
The lights that we thought up until that point were motion sensors.
Yeah.
That's...
He's actually the guy in the basement listening for him coming up the stairs.
That to me might be the best reveal of the film. Like that to me
it is incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
As you said, he's the master of setup and payoff.
Yes.
What more can you say about it?
No.
It's his best film.
Yeah.
By
yeah, and that's saying a lot because he's fucking had some bangers.
Yeah.
But this is just I think this is going to be one of the defining films of the 21st century, without a doubt.
Yeah.
When scholars watch this podcast back 200 years from now as the essential film analysis of international cinema, and hear us say that, they'll have to agree because it's just like, if I look at what defining films have come out since 2000, like this,
The
Lord
Departed.
of the Rings, The Departed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, we've had so many great movies, but none that I think have held, I'm not going to say none because I'd probably have to have a look at the list, but Parasite would be at the top of the list of ones that I think are going to be are now modern classics and will be talked about.
And I think this
7
has,
years from now.
to look at another film that I think was a huge cultural phenomenon at its release, I think something like this has far more staying power than something like an Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree. And I love that movie. Like, but I would agree. Yeah.
Like, how many people have you heard talking about that film in the last 12 months?
No, exactly. And it just...
Everyone was all over it when it came out. And fair enough. I think it's a really good film.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important in terms of its representation and things like that.
Yeah.
Fantastic film. I've not heard anyone speak about it in the last 12 months. Parasite, you will still get people talking about. And it, like you said, you will have people in 50, 100 years talking about this in the same way that we talk about Seven Samurai, Citizen Kane, Casablanca, films of that era.
Yeah.
You know, and Bong Joon-ho is going to be remembered in the same way that we look back at a Kurosawa, Hitchcock, Kubrick.
Yeah.
Scorsese,
Tarantino. Like, it's just this beautiful string. And you look at the films, like their influences, we spoke about Seven Samurai, Tarantino's spoken about how much he loves The Host and he loves Bong Joon-ho films. He's a big fan of The Host. And Memories of Murder, he talks about so fondly. And you look, it's kind of like, as silly as it is, it's like that real recognizes real. You know what I mean? Like these guys are like, we're fucking auteurs and we know it. It's just...
It's what makes me laugh when people are like, oh, you know, Christopher Nolan or Denis Villeneuve. And it's like, I reckon they both just fucking love each other's movies. Because they both are just dudes who love movies.
And that's it. That's why their movies are so good, because they're like, well, this has worked, so this is just my spin on what's worked. You know? And they do it so fucking well.
You know, I don't think you're going to get many directors who are out there, you know, shitting on other directors.
No.
Unless that director is, I don't know, Uwe Boll.
Marvel bullshit, duh. I love that guy. Some fucking wizard in a forest. Love that guy. He's made some German films. He might have to pop on the show one day.
Real auteur.
Real auteur pain in my ass. That's Parasite. 5 stars across the board. It's the best movie ever made. You heard it here.
No, I mean, it's you're not even being hyperbolic.
No,
it's genuinely in that conversation.
It is.
It's just, it changed my life. No, it's genuinely amazing. I don't know what to say. Just, well, thank you for watching the show. Thank you, Bong Joon-ho, for making that movie so we had a title for our podcast. So.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Bong Joon-ho, for having a son. And his entire lineage. We hope many well wishes for the next 1,000 years of your dynasty. Thank you, Thomas Edison, for inventing films.
Oh God,
Jesus for inventing Earth. Just what a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive.
Born too late to explore the world, born too early to explore the stars, born just in time to watch fucking Parasite.
You know where our socials are. That's That 1 Inch Barrier. Another Oscar episode out of the way, done and dusted. We tackled the mountain that was Parasite, and with ease because we love it so much. But another episode upcoming, the December episode of the show with Mr. Josh Barry's pick, which was
Sisu from
Finland, going into the action genre.
Actually, did a quick, short action.
Which we've not done much action, so that's going to be
very exciting.
Packed, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The episode might be longer than the film, but we're fine with that.
We're okay with that. That 1 Inch Barrier on Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you are listening to us on your preferred podcasting platform, make sure you're following us there. Thank you for downloading the episode. I was playing a little trombone with my fingers there. I was like,
trombones don't have keys, but...
You know, see how I eat a banana?
This is really the peak
December.
of intellectual discourse.
That's it. Yeah. I had to bring it down a notch because I was feeling too smart. But yes, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for following the podcast. For this long, we'll see you in the December episode of That 1 Inch Barrier.
Bye, guys.
Bye.